There it is. All right, now we're going. It's Tony
I'm
from Ropes and
still
Wings
looking.
for our Tuesday talks, and we have Kaz from Journeying Soul Therapy and Heather from Quantum Healing Within, and we have our beautiful, lovely guest JCK from Quantum Truth. JCK, we had to think about that for a little bit. Now, JC, if you don't know JC, she is an absolute angel. And I just had a client that wanted me to express my gratitude for all you do, JC, with getting the information out there on healing and everything else. And I'm just going to have you kick it off, JC, because we're talking about the nature of our reality. And it's so vast of a topic. And
It is huge.
what is it
Well,
about? Go ahead. What is it about SCHH and this modality in our videos that you like that would help people?
yeah, well, I thought that this would be an amazing topic to explore with SCHH. And I think a lot of people who do watch me know how much I've been singing the praises of this modality and Laura Whitworth and all of her amazing students who then went on to support and help other people. And so, and I've had 4 sessions now of
Wow.
SCHH. I don't know if any of you have ever heard someone having 4 sessions, but yeah, we finally got the buggers. We finally got them all. But it's also because I geek out at this stuff and I absolutely love hypnosis and I love exploring the other worlds. And we were saying off air how, I've been watching a lot of near-death experience videos recently, and I was contemplating about how similar it was to a lot of the quantum experiences that people have had in their sessions in SCHH from what I've understood. And I've also studied it. So I'm studying SCHH as well. And I just thought that this topic of the nature of our reality is pretty much at the core of everything I do on my channel, exploring every single possibility. And I wanted to hear from you guys the stories and of some conclusions you might have come to with a lot of your clients. I asked Laura the question, and she just kept saying everything is possible, anything is possible, But even that, everything is possible. What does that mean, in terms of
Right.
our reality? So that's what I wanted to explore, and I hope that we get to have our minds bent and feel our questions go in every single direction and things like that. So that's pretty much why I asked that question. Let's explore the nature of our reality. So,
How do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel, or what are your thoughts? Because you recently just created a video about the nature, you were expanding on that. What are your thoughts? This reality.
Well, because I talk to the trees. Is that what you're is that what you're saying? I
No,
talk
like
to
what are your thoughts about how this reality is, or how do you see it through your perspective?
I've taken nearly 2 months off because I got really burnt out. And so when you finally slow down, when you've stopped working, Tony, I'm sure you've experienced this when you went from go, 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 go all the time as a paramedic to having to stop. You start thinking about everything about life, what's it mean? And that's what's happened to me. And I am questioning everything because I'm really responsible with, hundreds of thousands of people watching me. I'm responsible for what I put out there. And people take what I say and what I share as gospel. And I start to question everything like, well, what is truth? What is black and white? What is truth? And I realized that in listening to different Soul Center healing sessions that people have had, in listening to different near-death experience sessions people have had, that it seems that our perception as the replica of God, because we're creators, that where we place our attention is what creates our reality, and it's always seen through the eyes of the viewer. and it's always going to have that flavor. And even for example, a near-death experience is going to have a flavor that works for that person. You know, that they're going to see something that perhaps someone else won't see. And it's definitely I've come to that conclusion that perhaps every angle is correct. Whereas before, especially when we were caught up with the pandemic, we kept saying, no, they're wrong and we're right, you know, or that you know, it was a very divisive period of time. And so we just assumed that we were absolutely on the right side of history. We were absolutely correct in our view of things. But recently, you know, I spoke to my daughter's father and I said, you know, I questioned him, why did you get an experimental jab in your arm? And he said, I was saving your lives. You know, I was protecting you and our daughter. And I said, you really believe that? And he said, yes. He said, I work in hospitals. I visit different, you know, places where people are sick. And he said, I didn't want you guys to get sick or worse. So he really believed it from his angle, from his point of view. What, you know, it was truth. And so I think that that's starting to come through for me a lot more. And I think that you guys, as seasoned Soul Center Healing practitioners, you know, I mean, I wanted to ask you, how do you stay malleable in your belief or understanding of our reality if somebody is presenting you in hypnosis something completely different than what you would ever believe in? You know, and do you have to pull back and sort of go, maybe not, or you know, allow them to explore that? Because you know, and I don't know how many sessions you've had in hypnosis, but there's always that observer, you watching the session or feeling the session. And I know there's always this little voice of mine going, I wonder what they're thinking about what I'm just saying here.
Are they judging me?
Are they, or, you know, because there was something that an entity said I had a session with Laura. The audience doesn't know this. I had a session with Laura a few weeks ago in December. And, you know, there was some outlandish things these entities were saying. And I was thinking, I hope Laura doesn't think I'm making that up, you know, or, you know, there was that little voice in my head saying that.
She's
So
heard it all.
yeah, I'm sure she has. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
well, and we all know, I mean, it's like a facets of a diamond. So where you're looking at one facet of that diamond, looking at everything else, your perspective is completely different. But what we're finding in sessions is the message is so similar. But the way they view it is so different. So our thoughts create our reality. And I guess we keep an open mind and just allow that all to flow and experience that with the client to see what their view of their reality is, because it is all about the client and healing them. And so we have to look at their, you know, see it from their eyes, what they're seeing. But it's
Yeah.
but they are so similar. They're infinite possibilities of what could happen, and yet the message is so similar.
Well, I have to say, I was similar to you, JC. I am right. These are all wrong. This is before I started practicing Soul Center Healing Hypnosis. And I got into that so that I could find out the truth. I think if you go back to the COVID thing and we all took a break, that, like you said, and we all just started asking, well, a lot of us started asking questions, right? Mm-hmm. And watching healing hypnosis was like my go-to thing. I wasn't really interested in the intel. That was my intel. That was my,
exactly.
That's
yes.
where the truth is.
That's what I'm the same, Kaz. I'm the same.
But what comes through in a lot of my sessions, and I've had this personally in my own session because I live with someone who is very different from my way of thinking. who are we to judge what other people's soul choices are, right? Who's to say your choice is better than someone else's? And that's the theme that comes through in my sessions. And it's something I had been realizing anyway, but the more you hear that in your sessions, the more you're just like, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Oh, I so agree with that. I feel like for me, I'm so open-minded. And I try not to ever think that my perspective is right over another person's. I feel like if you were to put 10 people in a room and you ask them the same question, if they're all around the world, they're going to have 10 different perspectives. Which one of them is right? Who gets to pick which one of those perspectives is the right one? They're all correct. And I see that sometimes when the messages are coming through, some people get a little triggered by some of the messages, but then other people, they take something of value from the messages. They learn something. So it's just interesting to see the lens that a person looks through when they're, when they're learning about these different things. But I think be open to all perspectives, because how do we really know what is the truth? How do we really know? How do we know?
Absolutely. I'm going to change my mic because everybody's saying my very professional, expensive microphone is low. So I'm going to just unplug it.
Is there not a volume button on? You just turn it up.
It sounds good to me.
Yeah,
sounds good to me too.
We're in headsets though too, so
that's true.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, while she's changing that, continue, Heather. Continue, Heather.
I think that was all I was going to say. There was something that popped into my mind, but now it's gone. I was just thinking about just a recent session that I had that I transcribed. And it's so funny because the information that came through, brought through from the beings that were bringing it through, brought through Mother Teresa. Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about the dark side of what they've been saying about Mother Teresa. Have you heard that before? JC, have you heard that?
What did they say about Mother Teresa? Can you
hear
me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear it. That sounds really good.
Good.
Okay.
It was just a beautiful message about how you could choose to live your life on earth. You could come to play in the darkness, which souls get the opportunity to do. You can choose to play in the darkness, or you can choose to live your life like Mother Teresa and be a kind, motherly person. This was brought through by the Syrians. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And was that in a session or is that in another channel?
That was in a session. That was actually in a session. The message came through.
So I would interpret that as, because Mother Teresa was always seen as the symbol of purity and goodness.
Yeah. But now have you heard the darker side of Mother Teresa? Has that ever come across? Okay. So when that came through for me, I was like, oh no, somebody's going to say something. And of course, there were a few comments and they were like, why would the Syrians bring through that message? And anyway, long story short, we perceive, I think too, when these beings or when these messages are coming through, that these beings have access to all information, to everything. They know everything about every single person that there is. But really, they are also bringing these messages through their own perspective and their own lens and how they perceive the earth. And I don't think it's like one big database of information that they all have the same access to. So it's just interesting to see how some people took that message and they resonated with the, being that good person, that loving, motherly person. And then other people were like, this message no longer holds, I'm not going to listen to it because they talked about this figure who may be dark. It's those different perspectives.
The other divisive topic is always about flat Earth and, spherical sort of planets. So has that come up in your sessions? Because the answer my higher self gave is that, and from and even before hypnosis sessions, was always that the earth is multidimensional, and so that depending on, like, if somebody's standing on one end of the number 6 and on the other end there's another person, someone's going to see that as the number 9 and someone's going to see it as the number 6. So everyone's going to see it from their perspective, exactly what you said, Heather. Have you had any sessions or questions that people have asked or answered in regards to the shape of the earth, or made mention of planets? And because I think you and I, Tony, we had a do you remember our session?
Yeah.
And my higher self kind of yelled at us, said,
Yeah.
we're
Go
all
ahead.
from source, there is no difference, we're all from source, you're not from different planets.
I forgot about that. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. It did, but yeah, your higher self did yell at us.
I edited that out of like when I put it up, I thought that's going to make everyone really upset because everyone wants to know, am I a Palladian? Am I Syrian? Am I Arcturian? And they pretty much were like, I was open. Listen, I was open for the answer, and my higher self really scolded us, and well, not in a bad way, but basically said, you are all from source. Anyone who speaks about what was it? Anyone who speaks of alien races or something like that is corrupted or something. Oh, like they're being deceived. Yeah, it was something to that effect. And I was like really shocked.
My higher self too is very bossy, very snappy.
It's direct.
I've said this before. I'm just like, okay. Well, I had a session. Tony, did you go to Inner Earth in our recent session? Or am I
Yes.
imagining?
No, I wasn't in Earth. Now, what it was, I forget. I have too many sessions. I forget.
It was
what
the
was
elf. Wasn't it the elf being that you
beings
found
was
out was Inner Earth? Yeah.
Yes,
so I've had lots
that's
of
right.
sessions about Inner Earth. I've had sessions of people traveling into the core of Gaia, where there's a crystal sun.
Yes. Yeah. I've seen that in meditations. Yeah.
But I don't know what that means.
But yeah, well, because so I'll just speak from my perspective of my sessions and also my astral journeys, which is what I'm known for, is for my, people call them remote views. I call them, you could call them etheric journeys or astral journeys or whatever. But every time I've done a theta state dive into what the reality is, I've seen it's not like a solid object. The earth is not like a solid thing. It's experienced as you're experiencing it. So sometimes in astral journeys, you'll see inner earth, but it's almost as if the outer limits don't exist. So it's not like a solid, like that whole Agartha thing where they've got like a solid world and then inside is an inner sun. And that's kind of impossible for us to believe. It almost felt like it was just layers of experience as you're going in. And then in the most recent session with Laura, I saw I was in a really high realm. I won't reveal where I was, but it was pretty spectacular. But I was choosing to come into Earth. And I could see pockets of existence. So there were it was like portals, or it was clouds. There was clouds beneath us from where we were, and we could choose where to go. And depending on where we placed our focus, we could go there. And Earth looked like just a darker, denser place and full of a lot of sadness, and it needed love. And that's why I felt I needed to go there. And that looked like a little pocket of an opening in the clouds, and each other place you could feel what the other worlds were like depending on where you placed your focus. And so the solidity of our realm is hard to describe. I did get a feeling also that Earth was plastic. That's how I described it, as very plastic and fake, and a matrix, and created by AI beings like archons. And it definitely felt plastic. It was, so there was different feeling to it, but I couldn't see it like a globe.
Mm.
But I'm not saying it's flat either. I think it's where we place our focus and or how we're perceiving it at the time, what is needed at the time. Because if we're creators, aren't we creating our own individual experience through our own lens?
Yeah.
You know, we're just copies of God. We're not. People say we're fractals of God, and I believe that's probably the wrong word to use. Only recently I've been thinking about this, because wouldn't we be? You're not a fractal of your mother and father. You know, you. It's like you are whole in yourself,
Yeah.
and so we have that ability to be like God within us. So we are His eyes, or His or her eyes, and we perceive the world however we need to perceive it for the experience of the Creator.
Mm.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's how I see it.
I want to go back a few steps, because another part of the session I had with Tony is we were in the Hall of Records, and he said there was a room full of, there were globes, right?
Yeah.
And if you touched one of the globes, this is what I was thinking when you said the pockets of realms, it sounded familiar. You could just touch the globe you wanted to experience.
Wow.
And we talked after, and he was just like, no, I didn't want to. He didn't want to touch, just in case he popped off somewhere else.
Touch the globe. Do it.
Disappeared out of my chair and into
Harry
another
Potter.
realm for a whole lifetime. But that's what I got out of it, though, is if I touched that, I would experience a whole lifetime in that realm, in that place, that realm, wherever that was. Those globes are different shapes and sizes and look different, and it would be a whole lifetime in that realm. But where I was in the Hall of Records, or where I was as my higher self, it would be just a split second.
And that brings us back to the NDEs, because we were talking about that at the time. Like, that's what happens to people. If you can have this whole life and you've been there for days, but you've experienced this whole other thing. And then we were like, maybe that's just what we're doing now.
Isn't it fascinating? I watched a near-death experience the other day from a lady who estimated that she was in heaven, or whatever you want to call it, for 5 years in her near-death experience. So I think she was dead for 45 minutes. She was dead for 45 minutes, and she said that she worked out like how far, because time doesn't exist there, because you're in the quantum realm. And so, but just calculating how long it took her to walk, because she was walking everywhere, and experiences and the extent of what she experienced, she said it was 5 years.
Wow.
And so many others also said the same thing, that they were there for a very long time and then came back, and it was only 15 minutes later here. It's pretty amazing. That also, you know, the experience of time is a major impact on us as earthlings. So what do you think is my biggest bone of contention that I have, that I am trying to, and I believe that after my recent upgrade of being unwell
upgrades.
for happy upgrades.
Happy
We were talking
upgrades.
about how, you know, being sick is just an upgrade. And I really do think that. I think it was like being dismembered and being put back together again, and having to reassess how we are. And one of the things I'd like to, moving forward, do is to be and allow myself to be more open-minded about certain things that I felt sure about. And so this would include this whole idea of space and space travel, or different, I'm going to call them dimensions. I still have a problem with the idea of planets, because I just believe they're dimensions. I think that these beings are interdimensional, and people saying that they're from a certain race, okay, that they originate from a certain race. What have you experienced? What sort of colors of races of non-earth beings have people come through within their sessions with you guys? What have you experienced?
I just have to speak from my own experience of a session I had on a ship, whatever that ship is, that mothership. I keep going there. I get fed up with it. I'm sitting
I
in,
had that. Yeah.
we're eating Chinese food, and I'm in a Chinese type restaurant. There's a bluebird being opposite me. I forget what the other one was. And next to me is my best friend, who's a blob. Just
The best friend's a blob. It's a big amoeba.
And you love it so much.
And I'll never forget it. I was like, he's just a blob.
Star Wars, eat your heart out. I love that.
It
It's
really,
like
really was
painting.
Star Warsy.
I have a
Yeah.
lot of different beings come in my sessions. I've had a lot lately. I have some clients too that when we connect, they connect with different races. And in the session, different races, different beings come in to deliver different messages. And you can actually hear the frequency and the shift in their voice when these different beings come in. She begins to enunciate words differently. It's almost as if she has a different accent. Angels, when they come in, are very soft and angelic. And then she connects with Pleiadians. And when they come in, she says it feels very powerful, almost as if she has to hold herself back because the power is so intense. And recently, I had a client that connected with the Anunnaki, which is a message that I'll be sharing soon, which was very different. When they came in, I thought, oh, how do I handle this? Like, this is the first time connecting with this race, but they brought through a really interesting message that I'm excited to share. I've had Grays come in to sessions, or well, just really one, but that was also very interesting. You're kind of like, well, what do I do with this? But it's amazing to hear, like, from this side, being a practitioner. And when you're listening to these different beings, you can actually feel the energy that comes through, and you can hear it in the changes in their voice. You can tell when they're talking with the higher self and just being in that space. You can also tell when these greater beings, these higher beings, these interdimensional beings, like you said, come in. You can hear the shift, and it's quite amazing.
I've noticed my voice changes in sessions when different entities come through. They always sound very they sound British, kind of.
They sound like Kaz.
Well, I
Heather's
know
quite
when,
good at Heather's quite good at a British accent. I don't think Tony is.
I am so not.
I'm so not.
I'm so not.
There was one. I remember the feeling. So I think what you're talking about, Heather, with certain people that have the like, there's a different. They really embody the being that's coming through the consciousness. That's classed as a somnambulistic client. So they really feel, and I often get that I become the being that's coming through. And I have to say that the darkest, I think everybody saw the session with me and Tony where there was a couple of demons that throwing some nasty things around, and my whole face contorted. But I think the darkest of the dark that came through was with my session with Laura, was an Archon, and it identified itself as an Archon. And I remember, if people don't already know, that when you're in hypnosis, there's always still you observing the session. And when I say observing, I don't mean there's eyes outside the body. It's a voice or a presence of yourself witnessing what's happening.
You're aware.
And there's something about his voice was absolute. It was cold. She afterwards, Laura described it as that being was so cold and so like a psychopath.
Yeah.
So cold so nasty. She said, I knew he was there and I had to get him out. And if you don't know what an Archon is, I mean, she said to me, they're from the AI universe. They're not from our universe. It actually said to her, I don't have light. I do not have light. Go ahead, blast me with your angels. I do not have light.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't come from source. They don't come from our realm. They don't come from our, you know, everything has light in it. Everything has the light of source in it that comes from our realm. And these beings that believe, they said, we were given this world. This is our world. Your God gave this to us. This is our reality. And as soon as Laura, as she was listening, worked out that it was an Archon and that he was saying he was working with AI, she said, right, that's it. We're packing you up. We're sending you to the AI universe. And he was like, what? How did you know? Who told you? And that was it. He was gone, right?
Who
That
told you?
voice, he actually said, who told you? That voice, she was listening really carefully. And then she said, right, that's it. Archangel Michael, come in. And it was so amazing to witness that. But that blew my mind, that notion of, so there's, I mean, I kind of already knew there's multiverses, there's other universes, but that idea that there is a universe that it's not from source.
I had a
That's
session.
mind-blowing.
I had a session just the other day that we explored a little bit of that concept. Of course, after you have the session, you always sit there and think, why didn't I ask this question and this question and this question? But this was talking about how there is like a prime creator and there are other creators that have created these universes, and that there are infinite universes that the human mind can't even begin to understand because they don't have the same it doesn't look the same way ours does. Like you said, ours operates off of light and frequency and energy and sound and color and vibration. And there are universes that have a completely different structure that we can't wrap our minds around. But they were talking about, and I still haven't quite worked this out, prime creator, what that looks like, but then a creator of this universe. So is that the creator that we sort of look at as our source? Or are we looking at the prime creator of all of these universes at source, as source?
Well, I always think,
binge your
I
mind.
always, when I think of source, I say the source of all things.
Right.
So to me, I believe in my connection that it's the source of all things, not just this universe.
Yeah.
But I guess it depends. Some people say that the God of this world, you know, is the God of the Bible, which was not, it was like the demiurge. So that comes from the Gnostics. And then you have the real creator of all things. Yes. And so that's fascinating that even the rules don't apply. The rules of free will that we have in our universe don't apply in these other universes.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's one of the reasons why Laura packed that one up and said, you're going straight to the AI universe, you know, back there, because over there they don't have the free will and they work in cohesion with AI. And there was something empty and robotic about the voice. It was absolute. It was just full of pure anger and despised us, you know, despised the human creation. And that often comes up in a lot of things when people say, why would they do that to us? So for example, if the rule, if we look at it like this is a very Gnostic approach, that the CEOs and the rulers of this world, the human rulers, are being infiltrated by these heartless enemies, these enemies that don't have light, okay, these archons, then often us as humans who may not be aware, we say, how could they do that? Why would they be so cruel as to shut the water supply off to that village? Or why would they do that? Because it's coming from this these entities that are not of this universe, and they don't believe in free will, and they don't believe that we should all be equal, and things like that. So, but one of the things I've definitely realized in this time off is that all things, no matter how negative our perception is, or how much torment we experience in our lives, it always in this world, there's always a counter effect of the good that comes out of it. Always, no matter how bad something is. Has that been your experience as well, guys? Like, have you seen, I mean, you probably can't reveal private sessions, but I'm sure you've seen traumas in some clients, and that in that there was still something precious and beautiful.
Well, I've had sessions going back to what they've called the disconnected one, which is the black goo, the AI, and it's just not going to be able to take this universe over. It's just not. In fact, it's already lost. I've lost my thought. I've lost my train of thought.
Is there good? Is there good? Yeah. Is there good?
Yeah.
Have you experienced in your sessions with people who may have even had really bad trauma, where there's always a good reason, or
it's almost like they keep explaining it like we've got to the very, very end of the pendulum now. And now that we're at the end, we're going to start swinging back. This keeps coming up again and again and again. What I can't get my head around is we obviously wanted this polarity, right? We wanted to see the darkness, but at the same time, there's a corruption here, right? With this disconnected one. So maybe it's gone even darker than we even wanted to experience. Do you know what I'm saying?
I just always see that Source has there's always in the grand scheme of things of this giant chess game, that there's always a long-term reason for why it's allowed to be. You know,
well, the darkness shows you the light, doesn't it? You have to see the darkness in order to see the light. I do think that, a lot of times people will come into sessions and they'll say, I had this terrible, terrible experience and I can't let it go. I can't get over it. I'm still stuck in it. And when you connect with that higher part of your consciousness, oftentimes it can bring through an understanding of why you experienced it and how it helped you to grow, how it helped you to become stronger, how it helped you to become more independent. If you wouldn't have had that, maybe you would have gone down this different path, which wouldn't have led you here. And a lot of times too, in these sessions, a lot of people come in with traumas with their family, parents who they've just had terrible times with. And in this quantum space, we can not only connect with their higher guidance, but we can also connect with the higher guidance of the parents. And we can gain a deeper understanding of, number one, what that parent was going through at the time, what was happening in their life or what they experienced early on that sort of created the path that made them who they are. And it can help the person to see it from a different perspective. So does it make it better? Does it take it away? No, not really. But if you can come out of it with a different perspective, you can begin to heal and let it go. That's what makes these sessions so great, is because you can come in with all of these things that you're holding on to, but you can leave with an expanded perspective of why these things happened. And that can really help you to begin to release and move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We actually covered that in my session, Kaz, with whether when we reframe a past trauma experience, does it actually change the past experience? And the answer is because we reframed it and changed the person's perspective or view of that experience, it actually, in a sense, changed that at what
That a
happened.
more positive outcome.
More
Yeah.
positive outcome, a healing for the client. And so, yeah.
There's
I love that.
speaking about near-death experiences again, there was a famous someone in my chat mentioned the most famous account of near-death experience by a man named, who's passed away now, but his name was Melon Benedict. And he was extraordinary in that he's the most studied near-death experiencer, because what happened to him after he died for a good hour and a half. He was in a
Wow.
hospice with a brain tumor, and he was an atheist, not even an atheist. He said, I was not even an atheist, because atheists at least consider the whole topic of creation and God and things. He said, I didn't. Because I was brought up in a Catholic boarding school, and I just hated humanity. He hated the world. He thought that, and so he created this brain tumor in his head, essentially, by the age of 30. And so he was ready to die in this hospice. And he said he saw, it was nighttime, or it was early morning, and he saw this bright light, and the next thing you know, he was going to the other side. Now, Melon Thomas is extraordinary in that after he came back, the brain tumor disappeared when they did a scan on him. But not only that, he could still access the light. He could still go to the light. So he would go to the light. And so he said he perfected it to the point where he'd be in a waking state and he could go and ask things. And he came back with, he was very practical. He came back with inventions and things, and he would be tested by universities. There was a disease that had was baffling some researchers that people had, and he went to the light and got the answer. And he wrote, he drew these things and with numbers on top, and it ended up being the chromosomes that they had to pinpoint to figure out. And now they found this cure for this disease and all sorts of things like that. So he was getting answers from source. And where was I going with this? In one of his interviews, he was explaining that he was very positive about the outcome for human beings. And he said that, that the human race will eventually have a very blissful place to live, but it won't be here on Earth. And that we will have to leave here, because nothing because of what humans have done, but just simply because Gaia is, and he does explain that Gaia is an organism. Gaia is a living being. He said that it's, that the sun and all of that is expanding and it's getting hotter, or there's certain things happening where we need to leave Earth. And he predicted that within the next 400 years that humans would leave this earthly realm and go to somewhere else. And I read in the comments, someone said, and George Norrie, who was interviewing him, said, do we leave in spaceships? And he said, well, no, it's not spaceships. And he said, it'll be something that we create, we invent, or we discover, but it won't be through spaceships. And someone in the comment section said, we're going to leave through starships, not starships, through portals, like Stargates. To other realms. So this sort of explains this idea that, of course, we can't get in a spaceship and go out there to another planet, because it's all dimension. It's just all dimensional. And the way he described it, now this interview was in 2009, and the way he described it is what has come up in the last couple of years in New Age circles, of this idea of a new Earth. And it's the way he was describing it sounded very much like the new Earth, like a 5D kind of way of living, that humans will evolve to this extent where we're going to really work together, and we're going to have to leave and go somewhere else to another realm that's going to suit our needs. And the way we live there is going to be very different than here. And this is very, very intriguing for me, because I know that in many sessions that other people have had in their hypnosis sessions, or maybe even quantum jumping or meditation or astral journeying, we've seen the new earth. We've seen the way humans are. We've seen it, and we know it exists. And I'm wondering if we're dreaming up a new dimension, and it's going to take 400 years for us to finally get, find a way to get there.
No, don't even say
No, not
that.
400, just 4
4.
years. We're manifesting that.
I feel like it's coming soon. I don't know. I mean, I go back and forth.
So Kaz and I were laughing because in her session she was riding the Pegasus, and that's how people were shifting, was through was it a Stargate, or was it
I was very
Stargate?
specific. It was
Like
a
a
Stargate. He said, is it a portal? I was like, no, it's a
s-
Stargate.
Stargate.
Portals take you from one place to the Stargates take you up, is
in
what I said.
dimensions.
Mm.
Oh, isn't that great? I love that.
So
And
your
this was
frequency,
about
Take you up.
a year ago.
it was like April or May of last year.
Mm.
So, but because your frequency has risen so much that you're able to access that gateway, and just go right into the next dimension or the new place. And the people were walking up to the Stargate, and they all had, normal shit like New York.
Oh,
New
I
York-
said,
New York-
what did I say? Do you remember about their t-shirts?
Yeah, it was like a New York City t-shirt or something.
No, I said it's a Nike t-shirt. I said, I know it's
Oh.
going to be soon because everyone is wearing Nike t-shirts. I could see them all. So that was my feeling, that it was a more recent thing. Unless
in
we
our
still have
lifetime.
Nike t-shirts in 400 years. I don't know.
Well, I wonder if, it's just so fascinating because, again, I'm going to go back to the afterlife idea of so many NDE experiences all said the same thing, that where they went felt more real than here.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's the case, then perhaps this new dimension that we access through Stargates, this new earth, is going to feel more real than here. Or and I just feel like time is going to be something that's going to be very different than what we're experiencing right now. And it will be, who knows, maybe this, we don't know what the creator has in store for us, because we're always looking for the end, aren't we? We're always looking for the end of this experience, but as souls, we will always continue to evolve and need to experience incarnations,
You hear that a lot of people talk about this reality being like a game. I've been thinking about this a lot
Yes,
lately.
that's come through in my session.
I've been reading Cynthia Sue Larson's book, Quantum Jumps, and jumping into different realities and sort of exploring that concept. Where was I going? Now I've lost my train of thoughts.
Quantum jumping, Mandela effect,
jumping,
reality
no, I wasn't going
shifting.
there.
Reality shifting.
Was it to do with time?
Oh gosh, it just left my mind. My guides were like, "No, you don't need to talk about that. It'll
We're
come
talking
back."
about Cynthia.
What was I exploring?
About it being a game, about this
Well,
reality being a
thank
game.
you. Okay, yeah, a game. And so we're all here experiencing these different lifetimes, these different experiences. It's almost like you go, okay, I want to go in and play that game now, and I want to go play that one. And we talk about it not being real. I can't quite work out though how this is not real, because goodness, doesn't it feel? It feels real when you're in it.
That was one of the questions a while back. Is this a simulation? And I think Alice,
Is it a simulation?
Alice said that. What do you guys think about that?
Well, that's come through in so many sessions for me.
Right.
And I think I've had the same experience as Kaz, where I ended up on a mothership type thing. There's a very popular video that I did with Gordon Smith, who's another hypnotherapist. He doesn't do quantum healing hypnosis, but in a regression, he took me in a past life, and I died in that life, and it would have been 1400s here. And I wake up on a ship after the life, and I'm looking at my hands and going, why aren't they the pale white skin of this girl that I was, in France? And I look up, and there's this technician there, and he's unhooking something, and I'm sitting in some chair, and I'm like, who are you? And he says, you always ask that.
Oh,
You
it's like the
always ask that.
Matrix. It's like the Matrix. Yeah.
And he said, how do I put it? He goes, he said, we go in, we help the humans, and then we come out.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
And then he said, you do this every time, and you forget every time. And I was like, what? And so I think I was in an after I came out of that life, they were like kind of like a recovery room kind of thing.
Mhm.
And that kept coming through in nearly all of my sessions, that this is a simulation that some of us have come into to help the humans. The other impression I get, and I really do believe that the Gnostics were onto something. I really do, just from what I've seen and pieced together from all these pieces of experience, that this realm was taken over by an AI controlled force, and they made a replica of God's creation, I guess. Okay. And they did something, it was something to do with frequency. They dropped the frequency. But of course, Source is going to use that to the human soul's advantage, because the soul is going to experience growth no matter what the conditions, right?
Yeah.
And so there have been some of us who have been trapped in this reincarnation cycle. And I learned in my session with Laura, which I never expected to hear, very clearly from the higher self said, and the entities said, I don't get trapped in here, that my soul, chooses to come in here to help the humans, and I can very easily leave. And that's why they were angry with me, because they said, we're trying to get her, and we track her through every lifetime because she keeps coming in here and ruining our game.
Wow.
Okay, so
That's incredible.
I saw from the beginning of time when I was first created in that session. And again, and the dark said, we were here since the split, when dark and light were created, and we saw her as a diamond of light, and we pursued her. So the dark was always there trying to get the light. They forgot that they were part of the light, you see.
Yeah.
So that's, in a roundabout way, what I'm trying to say is that this particular experience that we're experiencing has been described as a game many times in my experience.
I had an interesting experience just the other day, and I think I was sharing this with Kaz and Tony. I've had it twice happen now, where I have this weird thing with my vision. It's on the right side. I can see it off to the side, so it's not my third eye, but I can see it when I open my eyes or when I close my eyes. And it's got a lot of different colors, like reds and blues and greens. It almost looks like a computer screen or a TV screen, when you see those bars, but it's moving. It's moving in different patterns and configurations. So it just happened a couple of weeks ago, and I sat there on the couch and I watched it. And what was coming through was it's a coding download, or it's a new code being installed. And I'm going, well, what's the code for? Like, what's the code? I'm not getting anything other than it's code. It's code. But it was colors, and it was moving and shifting, and it would expand and get bigger. I could open my eye and I could see it, or I could close my eye. And it's happened twice. I just like to know, what in the heck did they download to me, and where did it come from?
That's that crazy.
Did you
That's
write that
so
down
weird.
as a question so we can ask it in a session?
I need to do that. Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen
Kaz and I have a
putting
session. We'll ask
programs
it.
in. Oh, great. I love that. I've seen them putting, I don't know how they do it, but I've seen in one session, or this was just a meditation with Harms, that when they wanted to change the course of things, they would just put in this new program, and it was literally like pulling one out and then putting a new one in when it would shift to a new thing. I mean, I don't know if that was, I think that may be a metaphor, but who knows, you know. And here's the other thing is that this has come through also, is that just because this is a simulated reality or a game, a matrix game, it does not mean it's not important. It's all important. It's all real. Your child is still really important to look after. It's not fake. And a lot of these psychopaths that perhaps who are in these cults and things like that, they know this is a matrix reality or a simulation, and their justification of doing what they do is because of that. Okay, I've heard that in a lot of testimonies of victims of satanic ritual abuse, etc., where they will say, "This is not, you know, this reality. It doesn't matter. You know, there is another reality." So, but I want to just say to everybody, because a lot of people feel very lost, like, well, what's the point? I want to leave. I didn't choose to come here. You did choose to come here. And it is important. It's all important. It's important to your soul journey. And you don't even know the extent of the importance of everything that you're doing right now, you know. Every word that you utter, every person that you meet. And that's definitely something I'm learning through these experiences, and why, just like Kaz said, this is the intel you want, you know. This is the intel. It's this deep dive into the human consciousness and the exploration of our reality that I geek out over, because you know, you're going within and you're finding the answers within, and the answers may be different for me than they are for other people, but that journey and that expression and then that experience can then be felt in your waking life as well. You know, it's very important, all of it.
I feel like we all have this piece of this multidimensional jigsaw puzzle that I am trying to put together, and my little Brian sometimes.
Yo, Brian, I love it.
Little Brian can't
My little
cope.
Brian. I
What-
love this.
I mean, I feel really blessed that we are doing this, because we really have the best seats in the house to watch all the information come in and do
I
all this
love that.
massive healing on people, because you see the difference and everybody, and you get everybody's perspective, and it's just incredible to see. I just feel blessed to have that front row seat to seeing everything and doing all this healing.
Here's a big question I got for all of you. I was thinking about this the other day, and I thought I have to ask you guys. What do you believe? This is what I'm going to be exploring this year. What are entities? Did we just create them? Are they just thought forms? What are they? What do you believe?
Mm.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah.
So
You do.
Did we create them, or did Source create them?
I think there are some. I have come across this with my clients. They have created an entity as a
Yes.
protector from when they were a child, and that entity served a purpose, a really good purpose at the time. And now they've outgrown it, but it's still there and it's trying to protect them. There are definitely those kind of entities.
and
Yeah.
and then the thought form, well, I mean, I guess those would be considered thought form entities too, but the thought form entities, like, I speak ill of you, and
Yes.
I'm basically curating, because we're such powerful creator beings, that we actually create a being, a thought form entity that is a spark of source. We created it, we sent it to that person to do a job or a task, and as an entity. So it is an entity, but we created it out of thin air, because we are powerful.
What
We-
you're thinking about,
Mhm.
where you're focusing on.
Yeah, so I think one of the examples was that a best friend of a client, or not, it wasn't a best friend, a friend of a client, was jealous of her and what she was, how she looked, and all that stuff. She actually created a thought form entity to keep her down and to keep her from excelling, and it attached to her, kind of like black magic as well, but it actually
Yeah.
has a spark of source.
Well, our thoughts are so profound. This is another thing I've really am conscious of in the last couple of weeks is the thoughts we're sending out. Even if we don't speak ill of other people, sometimes we're thinking them, and that could actually harm the other person.
Mhm.
Or yourself, because I
or
don't think the
yourself.
universe can tell who the words directed to, right? Could just as well be directed towards yourself. So be careful what
Absolutely.
you
Well, of course, we're harming
say.
because we're all connected. We're all each other.
Mm.
That's the biggest thing, is that, if we harm another, we harm ourselves, we damage ourselves. And it's pretty profound when you look at it like that. Every day I try and do that when I'm in traffic, or
That's hard.
don't think bad things, because come on, let's think about what's happened the
Uh,
last few years was so divisive. It and it was visible. People had this and some people didn't, and those who had this we thought were idiots, and they probably thought we were idiots. And
mhm.
and that is a very visible way of hurting each other without hurting each other
Mhm.
through thoughts, and
My
I
I,
think
my
we need to we need to just focus now on what we want to see, right?
Mhm.
yeah.
Fix our attention on
This-
that. And also just being grateful comes up in my sessions a lot. Just be grateful for
yeah.
a nice meal you've cooked, or it's just the simple things, right? Your garden's amazing. Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for my garden. Whatever it
So
is.
so just my client, just recently too, that the higher self said that she was actually putting black magic on herself because what she was saying about herself, because she was speaking ill of herself. So she was actually placing black magic on her. So
Wow.
so her higher self had told her that she has to correct her language.
Mm.
I go, well, tell me about that. What do you mean, correct
And your
language?
thoughts. It's not even
And
just
yeah,
your language, it's your thoughts. And
yeah.
I have to really catch myself if I find myself thinking negative things, like, stop it.
I've started reading that book. And then I'm also reading Soul Speak by Julia Cannon, Dolores Cannon's daughter. And last night I was reading it before bed, and it was talking about, because it's all about talking to your body, or it's all about the emotions that we hold in our body and how those emotions manifest outwardly as illnesses, which is, what we work on in these sessions. But there was one part of it where they were talking about just start talking to your body and just start telling your body what it needs to hear. Talk to your cells, talk to your brain. You can start to program your body and how you want it to look or feel or become. So I've really been it's an interesting conversation around the house lately, because I'm just talking to my cells and my body, and I'm like, can we change this? And can we do this? And can you stop doing this, please? And I'll let you know if it works.
We always go back to sleep fit.
No, you always go back to
you
sleep
go
fit.
back
It doesn't
to
work.
sleep fit.
It does too work. Does too work. You can change your looks by just your thoughts.
Yes, you can. No, I'm
but
a
not in
huge
sleep. I can't do
proponent.
it in sleep.
You can.
I know. I haven't figured it out.
You know why,
Sleep
Heather?
fit.
You know why, Heather? Because you said you can't. Now you can.
I know. You're right. You're right. You're right. I'm trying to change that. This is why I'm in I actually have been even writing things down that I want to change, and writing down the reality that I'm trying to create and move into, talking about, shifting timelines or shifting realities. Cynthia talks about how every possibility of you already exists. Like it's already in existence, and you can shift over to that that timeline or that reality that you want to be in, or you can sort of quantum jump over into that timeline and sort of skip past all of these. So
Absolutely.
that's what I want to
That's absolutely true.
experience.
The way I understand that, Heather, is that if Source created all things need to exist all at once, because time doesn't exist. Every single possibility, every single permutation, every single outcome already is in our existence. Otherwise, it can't manifest. So yeah, the version of you that you want already exists.
Mhm.
And you know, athletes have done this where they've actually tested them, and they visualize themselves running their race, and the same muscles fire up in their body if they're just visualizing it as if they were actually doing it. So it definitely does work, I believe. And yeah, I've been doing the same thing as you, Heather. I've been from that book that you were talking about. I mean, just myself, I decided that I would start talking to my fat and say, I love
That's what
you.
I'm doing it too, girl.
Thank you
I'm
for-
doing
thank
it
you for
too.
Thank you for protecting me. I don't need the protection anymore. Thank you.
We're saying we're saying the same thing. I had that
Yeah.
conversation this morning. I'm like, it's okay. And in that book that I'm reading, she said the person that was changing their, I forgot what it was, but was just seeing all of this energy leaving the body and going back to source, and just
Yes.
sending it with love, like sending
Yeah,
all of
I
that
did it.
out of the body with love. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing what you did, but you can go now.
I've been doing that the last couple of days. I remembered a guy I used to listen to who had these audio you could listen to before you sleep to sort of, and he
Yeah.
lost like 200 pounds, 210 pounds or something like that. And he's got a flat stomach and everything. And a lot of it was this visualization stuff. But you know, I took a leaf out of that near-death experiences book, Melon Benedict, and how he goes to source for the answers. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to do that one night. And just, I mean, I already go to source in meditation, but I really asked, please show me what it is that I need to do for myself to heal myself. And then I got the message, go to sleep, and when you wake up, you will know, we will communicate it to you while you're asleep. And I got some visions of a few things, and then I woke up the next morning and I wrote down all these things, and one of them was remembering these visualizations from this guy. And so yeah, I'm sort of working on that. So it's pretty
And
amazing
so what
how
was his name again?
Melon, Mellen
Was he the one that
Thomas.
does the visualizations, or is he the
No,
near-death
no.
experience?
No, he's the near-death experiencer.
I
Sorry,
want the
sorry.
visualization one.
All right, I'll give you that one off air.
Okay, okay, perfect.
I don't want to promote some guy. Just- I'll give you that guy off air. He's great. No, he's great. I've actually met him a few times. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it's amazing. So, yeah, I loved this chat. I don't know how long you guys want to go for, but I love this chat.
Well, we've been talking an hour. We try to keep it at an hour, but I mean,
Yeah,
this chat is so vast. I mean, it's huge, the nature of our reality.
absolutely.
I
So
could literally stay up all night.
yeah,
Yeah.
we could talk for hours, and we could still keep going too if we want to. Is there any questions that we want to address about a reality? I mean, we know we create our reality. It's, you know, in our thoughts and everything. And what we're observing is actually happening. So in our own reality.
Yeah, but just going back to focusing on what it is you want, but not waiting for it, right? Cynthia Sue Larson also talks about this, Heather. She says, who's our guest on a Tuesday Talks in a couple of months?
you say it.
everybody,
You
by the
say
way?
it. You say
What?
it.
Go say it.
You
Announce that.
invited her. You say it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's on
she
your-
always says to the universe, how good can it get?
Mm, mhm.
Oh no, I
And-
thought you were going to tell everybody that
Well, you
she's
need-
coming on.
Yeah, make that
Oh.
announcement.
She's going to be on my Tuesday Talks in March the 21st.
Yeah.
And you
Great.
know what's funny is I'd been kind of fangirling over her for about 6 months. And on the winter solstice, I wrote it down on a piece of paper. I'm going to get Cynthia Sue Larson, who I'm fangirling over, on Tuesday Talks in March. And then it happened.
You did it. Yes.
You
Write
are
it
a
down,
powerful
speak
creator.
it. I was telling people this is actually going to happen. So
That's
Yeah.
great. I love
But
that.
talk about the saying, because when you put that on there, and that's her saying, universe, how good can it get, or show me how good it can get. When you posted that, I thought, yes, that is just such an amazing, powerful affirmation. Just just show me, like bring it to me.
And we've been saying it, Heather. I've been saying it
Yeah.
every day.
I have to.
I have too. We've been.
Have you, Tony?
Oh, yes, I
Oh.
have. How good can it get? Even
You're-
before a session that I do. I mean, how good can it get? What can we come across today?
I do that too now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's
I
it's
love
great.
it. It's powerful.
You kept that secret, Tony.
what that's because I didn't know anything about her until you guys were starting to talk about
Shh.
I just
Yeah.
saw a butterfly go past. That's always a beautiful sign.
Oh, really? That's
Nice.
good.
See? And we asked how good
When you
can it
said how
get?
good,
So
yeah, when you said how good can it get, I just saw a butterfly go
Perfect.
past.
I
Beautiful.
love
Awesome.
it.
well, I think that's probably a good place to end it. JC, what do you think? Have
Yeah.
you got anything else you want to
I
add?
think so. I just loved listening. I just wanted to pick your brains and listen to your stories and experiences. And I think one big thing I've learned in when I wasn't well, when I had a lot of time to think, was that
Upgrades.
we are upgrades. We are we are we are the creator, and we need to honor creation. So we need to really respect each other and everything that we say in our word and deed, and that's what creates and manifests the world that we want. So I just, coming out of these old habits of, gossiping with your girlfriends, and sometimes we talk about someone that we might not know, but we're observing and we might be gossiping about them. That's affecting them, and just being aware of where we're putting our energy is what's creating our universe. And I think that that's making up our reality, and that's why we're here. We're here to experience manifestation, in a slowed down way. That's basically
Yeah.
what Earth is.
Absolutely. There is a question from Spiritual Sunshine. What are your thoughts on how metals in our body affect our connection?
Oh, I love that, Candace. That's spiritual
Mm.
sunshine.
Yep.
Was it?
What do you guys think?
Well, we know with heavy metals, some of the heavy metals replace the actual metals that we need in our body, and I can't remember which one it is, but aluminum actually either replaces calcium. The body, takes aluminum in for calcium. I think that's what I'm not sure. Don't quote me, and it replaces it. So your body has a metal that doesn't function in there, and it just screws up your body. And about the connection, I think it interferes because magnesium is so important. That's our fuel. That's our internal fire. That's our fuel source.
Electrolytes. Yeah,
And
electricity.
so if there's a metal that's replacing magnesium or any of the other metals in the body, you're not going to have as good a connection to your higher self, or you're not going to have as good a connection to anything, because it's going to block it, because that flow of electricity and energy can't go. Go
Can I
ahead.
play devil's advocate?
Yeah,
We're
go ahead.
talking about autistic kids. We were talking about autistic kids earlier. We know that autistic children, many of them have heavy metal deposits because there's an issue with the detoxification pathways with a lot of them. But I'm going to tell you, and anyone else who has an autistic child will tell you, that kid inside is super connected to source, okay, really connected to the higher realms. So I'm not sure that that is correct. I do believe, however, that we are being that the whole world around us is being weaponized against us by these archons. I do believe that there are these entities called archons, and I do believe that they are terraforming this entire realm, both physically and psychologically, for their needs, and that heavy metals are used along with frequency to affect us in ways that slow us down, because they know that it can't stop us from ascending. It can't stop us from connecting to our creator, because we are the creator. Right. So I think that that's what it is. And that's a message I did receive from them, is that we throw frequencies at you, or we poison your food. to try to get to you or to slow the kid. For example, so these kids that have come in here and being born, and a lot of them are on the spectrum, the only thing that these entities can do is throw frequency, or through legislation, etc., throw frequency at us and try and slow us down, but it's never going to happen. And like I said, everything has a positive, because what's the story in this is that now we need to work out how to get rid of the heavy metals. And as humans evolve and we work together to work out how do we improve our water supply, how do we improve the medicines we take, how do we go back to all of these things, that in itself has a journey of the soul and an expansion and awareness, that we can't always see everything as there's an enemy out there trying to get us. There's always a good purpose for it, and that's why, what we focus on is so important, and why I tell my audience constantly, stop looking at the intel, stop looking at the doom and gloom, go within.
Yeah. Create
Beautiful.
your reality. Yeah.
I hope that answered that question.
Wonderful.
Well, and that's a good point. As a session, it's a good way to explore your reality and get that bigger picture and find out maybe the answers you need, because we all kind of second guess our higher self, because these sessions are like retraining sessions. We're helping people to remember how to do that, how to make that connection, or what that connection is, or how that connection feels, because everybody can connect and everybody can heal themselves. So,
Alice says her daughter has autism and has dreams about spaceships. Love that. Kaz is like, no more spaceships.
That's a whole different show.
I just want to go somewhere else.
Thing.
No more spaceships, please.
I want to know what they are.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you're probably running.
Hey.
You're up there running a spaceship somewhere. You're like the commander.
Kaz is just upset because she never can see the spaceship or what she's doing there.
I'm always hanging out. Although I said
she
to
is
Heather,
shopping.
I'm always obsessed with what people are eating in my sessions, JC. Like I'm always, if someone says it's a pot cooking, I'm
it's
what's
like an
in the pot?
Enid Blyton. Well, Enid Blyton used to sit there and describe all the food and same with J.K. Rowling. They always have to describe the food, because that's a very interesting thing, actually. I would be too. That's intriguing. I had that described in a session I did 2 years ago, I think 2 years ago, 2021, yeah. Where there was a being that came through in a hypnosis session, and they said that they eat this type of thing on the ship that's like what we would think is like steak, but it's a type of fungus. So it's like a mushroom, but it tastes like steak. So everything is plants and living, but it tastes like and has the same nutrients as meat. Yeah. And
I could be down with that.
I could too.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. Well, they had to grow it on the ship, and they couldn't have cows and stuff, but they had this mushrooms thing. So I'm sure there's a version of us up there, or there's I'm sure there's everything.
Right.
Everything crazy.
Everything all at what's that movie? Everything all at
once.
Everything experiencing the whole thing now. It's happening. We're there.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, it
absolutely.
is.
Yeah, I had multiple people write emails to me when I first started my channel, and went, like people from all over the world saying, I saw you in a dream and you were a commander on a ship. Was it commander? No, general. I was a general on a ship. And I was like, what? And all the different people all writing to me saying, I know you, I recognize you, you were a general on a ship.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. There's a version of me up there somewhere. Telling people what to do.
I think Tony and I are on the same ship. We can't figure out yet if Kaz is on the same ship, but
I don't think I am.
We had other clients that tell us even that we're all on the ship together.
We have decided that Kaz is off running around all over the place, trying different food and everything. She
Yeah,
just can't.
that's what
She
I'm
can't.
doing.
She
She's
can't stay on the
spaceship
ship.
hopping. She's just hopping from spaceship. She's like, I don't have time to just hang out on one. I need to
That's
find all the
actually-
food.
That's my dream, is to do the multidimensional travel, like a food tour.
Oh, food tour. I love it. Can I come with you, Kaz?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Multidimensional
Somebody-
food travel
When
thing.
you find the Stargate, will you just let us all know, please?
Yeah, you're not
Oh,
leaving me
yeah.
behind. You're not
We'll
leaving
meet
me
you
behind.
there.
Tony knows where it is.
Somebody
I
asked.
see-
Oh,
Yeah.
somebody's asking a question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was going to
Just
say
what-
that too. Go ahead.
Oh, what do you see for 2023, JC? I don't even know what's happening tomorrow for me. I'm one of these people. Look, I'm living in the now, and one of the things that I decided a long time ago is that I noticed that, as I said, always responsible for what I put out there and where people are placing their focus. There's a karmic responsibility there, and so I'm very cautious about just putting predictions out there, because it affects very vulnerable people. It really does, and they will, instead of doing the internal changes, they will hedge their bets on that thing and try and wait for that. This is what happened with that whole Nasara Jasara thing. People were waiting for money to come through for them, right? And so they stopped their lives and they waited for money to come through instead of creating what they needed now and working on themselves. And I truly believe that that's the same thing. Look, I just think that this is the year of introspection. We're in the year of the rabbit. Think about rabbits, whether you call them rabbits or cats, because in some cultures they will call it the year of the cat. It's all about inward introspection. The rabbit. Sorry, you can hear my daughter in the background. The rabbit personality type, if you're that in the Chinese horoscope, is usually a much more reserved sort of person, or a person who's a bit shy. So if you're feeling that you're assessing everything from the last few years this year, that would be one of the reasons why. And I think that next year is going to be, in 2024, year of the dragon. That's going to be more of the kaboom. That's my year of the dragon. Much more of the I guess the fruits of your labor, of what you're doing now. So this year would definitely be, a lot of people saying that this year is about revealing things, but they've said that every year, that the
Right.
truth is going to be revealed. I would be focusing a lot on really cleaning up your own backyard, as in just really working on these little parts of yourself, and assessing, what did you accomplish in the last few years, or assessing and reassessing and recalibrating. That's what I'll be doing this year. Yeah,
And creating those visions of what you want the future to look like.
exactly.
Yeah. Put your
I don't
focus
know,
there.
have you guys had prediction or things come up that people have given dates for in their sessions? Or
Not dates, no.
No dates.
I mean, themes
I avoid
come up,
dates like
but
the
no
plague.
dates.
time doesn't exist in quantum realms.
There's definitely
does it?
themes that connect a lot of our sessions, but there's absolutely no dates in there.
Well, if you think about it, if we're talking about how we're always shifting what we focus on, we're shifting onto these different timelines and different experiences. So it would be hard to nail down a date or a time frame, because maybe right now we're on the trajectory for something to happen at this time, but then the focus and everybody's energy shifts over to here. And now we're on a different trajectory, which I've heard the guides come in and say, and there's my bunny, by the way, speaking of rabbit. I don't know if you can see her underneath the chair.
Oh.
She's like, I heard y'all were talking about me. Yeah, I just think we're always shifting. So even when the higher guidance is trying to bring forward, this is going to happen, maybe that's how they're seeing it from their perspective as to where we're headed. But we can always veer off and go a different direction. So we're always changing it.
multiple timelines all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I also got, as I was talking, I also got that if you haven't been doing the work, expect to get an illness this year that will make you stop and reassess things and recalibrate and upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Happy
let's
upgrade.
see, and that's why we started calling it upgrades, because we have to reframe the calling it being sick. It's
Yes.
happy upgrade week. JC, JC was really pissed off at me when I said, and she was sick, and I said it's happy
No, because
upgrade
I
week.
I was so sick. And even though I was typing you, because I think that was in December, was that around Christmas? Because that's when I got sick. And I was like, I was so sick. Like I couldn't hold anything down. And I've never been that unwell in my life. But, you know, that's okay. I kept saying in the back of my head, this is good. This is detox. It's a seasonal detox. Just clear. If you don't clear this out now, you'll pay for it later. So I kept saying it was good, but I just remember you very happily said, happy upgrade. I was like,
That's what
Go ahead, Tony.
that's what Heather and Kaz and I always say, because we were just sick and tired of having those rundown weeks or whatever, and we're just started congratulating everybody on happy upgrade week.
Well,
You
that's
call
come
them and
through.
you call them and you go, I'm having a really shit week, guys, and they'll get a thing back.
Happy
Happy
upgrade.
upgrade.
That's what's came through in some sessions. I remember the guide said, you guys, sometimes you don't take the time that you need to rest, to heal. You go, you push, you go, you push. You've got a lot of stuff going on in your body right now. We are physically changing. They said you can't really see all of the things going on. And when you're not taking the time to rest, we're going to create sometimes a situation where you have to rest.
yeah,
And
I
in
was
that,
forced to.
yeah, in that you get not only to heal, but they get to bring in those coding updates or those, whatever the upgrades that we're getting as we change into
Yeah.
these sort of new humans that we're on the way to becoming. So either you can take the time out to rest, or like you said, something will be given to you where you
It'll
don't have
be
a choice.
forced. Exactly. Well, this was forced upon. I mean, I did actually start to realize that I was burning out because I did live hard for the last 2.5 years. There were times where I didn't sleep for 36 hours. I was doing it all
Oh, wow.
single-handedly and just burning out my adrenals. And then, of course, I was susceptible to something. But my tree, even the other day, I mean, yeah, I'm okay. I'm not coughing anymore and all of that. And I'm starting to feel the pressure of people, come on, we need you to, can you do this? Can you do that? And one of my friends very wisely said this morning to me, she said, I've been there before. Don't push yourself. You were burnt out before. If you go back to the way you did things before, you're going to regret it. You're going to really burn yourself out. And so things that came through in my session was I had to do things on my terms, that if I ever felt this pressure of doing things for others as obligation, or really pushing myself again the late nights, because I'm starting to see all these things I want to do. The late nights are coming back. My tree said to me the other day, like 2 days ago, I wrote it down. She said, you're still not in your body. You're still integrating. So just go easy, and that kind of floored me, because I was like, where am I if I'm not in my body? Because the only things I've been able to do lately is very basic things, like, which I have not in 3 years ever had the luxury of watching television or a movie. I've only been able to sit and watch repeats of Keeping Up Appearances and
Wow.
crochet
Love that.
and then very basic things of self-care, of that stuff. So I'm wondering, where am I? Where is the rest of me if I'm not fully in my body yet? So I must be up there somewhere getting upgrades and then coming back to integrate it, because this is what my tree said. She said, you're not fully integrated yet. Just take it easy. Don't push yourself.
Yeah. That's come through
Very
too
interesting.
about the brain. and I've gotten that. I don't remember if it was it with the session with you, Kaz? I can't remember. Maybe Tony. But it was like sometimes your mind shuts down, and I'll find myself sitting in here going, okay, I know I have all these things I need to do, but I cannot make my mind work. I can't figure out the next steps to take. And they've told me, they said, when you're feeling that way, stop trying to push yourself. Just go take a break and go rest. And they said, and stop going and getting the caffeine, because that is not going to fix it. So I kind of got in trouble with my higher
And I
self
was
too. They were like, stop it.
caffeine. Yes, I was caffeine free this whole time. And I
Yeah.
thought maybe it's because I'm not having coffee. Maybe that's why I'm tired. But my brain, just like you, my brain wasn't working. And I was saying that
Yeah.
people were emailing me going, can you please look at this thing? And I'm like, my brain is literally, I can't. My brain can't work what you're asking me to do. I can't
Yeah.
think like that. And I'm just like, wow, I really am burnt out. So
Yeah.
that's amazing that we're getting the same thing. Yeah. And this same friend of mine said this amazing thing, which I wish I could remember what she said. But she said trauma is doing everything too fast, too soon, too quickly, or something to that effect. That's what trauma is. That pushing of doing things too quickly, too soon, yeah, it was something
Mhm.
along those lines. But it does, it creates trauma as well. And it's amazing. So yeah, giving ourselves time is also part of it. And I think we're veering off into another topic here, but the way we create this new earth or a new reality, I believe, is the reason why we're being pushed so hard right now to the breaking point, is so that we can create new ways of doing things.
Mm.
And deprogram the old ways of doing things. So the reason why, for example, the kids were pushed so hard in school, where parents were like, I can't keep them in school anymore. And the kids were like refusing to go to school and things, because it's pushing us to think of a new way to educate our children. The old
Yeah.
ways are going to come undone. And it's the same thing. We think we're doing the right thing by staying up late and getting our work done and making sure we're helping everyone and putting ourselves last. And there comes that breaking point. So it's no doubt why these guides are saying that to us, that we need to have this break.
Mm.
And I was close to starting up again, this real hardcore pushing of work. And this morning, I got that message from my friend saying, don't do this to yourself again. Just slow it down. Slow it down. So
Well, I was going to ask you if you had anything exciting coming up this year, but I guess
I have. No,
You
I have.
have.
I have. I
Yeah.
have. But
but on your
pace-
terms. Yeah.
yes, the pace at which I do it. Yes, I mean, I'm going to be touring, and I've also got. Well, I'm intending, and I know this will happen. I'm creating a podcast, so like instead of just me blabbing on little musings and stuff, but I'm going to bring on some really amazing guests and interview them. And there will be also a lot. I mean, there's so many things. I've got so many ideas and things like that. But yes, the first thing that we're doing is we're touring. So with Tartaria Australia, which we did last year, I did a live stage event with them in June of last year, but we're finally going to do a couple more cities in Australia. And that's also why I needed the rest, because I know that's coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be great. Oh, I love these beautiful people in the chat having a look.
It's been going crazy. I can't really pay attention to it.
Is that
Wonderful.
crazy? Is that what you call crazy?
Yeah, well, your channel gets a bit crazier than that, but I mean, it's awesome to see everybody. And while I'm mentioning it, I mean, thank you for all our monitors, and thank you everybody for being in the chat
Yeah, they're
talking. I mean,
beautiful.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful to see.
This has
See
been
all these
fun.
beautiful, beautiful people that I know. Brad Beaver. Hey, Brad. How you going? Donny. Glenn Dev. Everyone's wonderful. I woke up very early, everybody. If you don't know, I woke up really early to do this.
We're really
I'm
grateful.
Thank you.
I'm tired. I want to
We've
go back.
enjoyed it so much. Now you can go get your rest.
I love you guys. I feel like I've known you forever. You guys are beautiful.
Well, we
We
have.
have.
So much
We
fun.
have.
Thank you.
We have.
If
On
you
the
know my
ship.
brother, if you know my brother Tony, then I must know Heather and Kaz. I
Yeah,
must.
we're all connected. We are. Well, this has been amazing. JC, thank you so much for coming on and being here with us.
Thank
It's just,
you.
I feel like we could just keep going for hours, but we're going to
I'll
let
be
you get some
happy to
rest.
come back anytime. And I
It's
loved
amazing.
listening and talking to you guys. And I think that your Tuesday talks are extremely important. I think I love listening to these sort of discussions. And, I know I talked a lot, but that's because you were very politely quiet. So I always feel like I have to fill in the gap. I always feel like there's
We
quiet.
loved listening.
No, I wanted to listen to you guys. But I kept looking over and you're all just quiet. And I went, okay, well, I'll keep talking.
You're our guest. We want to hear what you have to say.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for getting up early as well.
Yeah, thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
No
Perfect.
problem. Love you both so
It's perfect. And I'm just surrounded by divine feminine women. I'm just sitting here going, it's great. It's
Oh.
great. Yeah.
Tony, you
No,
want to wrap us up?
Yeah, love that chat. Thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you JC, and of course Heather and Kaz. You're all of my sisters, and JC, you're my sister too.
Yes.
Of
Well,
course,
you look exactly like my
I'm
brother.
a
I
brother.
tell you
Yeah,
that every time.
I am your brother. I am your brother. So all of our links to all of our channels are down in the chat, and I have JC's too down there as well. So it's all.
Oh, good.
I think so. If you might want to look at it, make sure it's the right ones, I guess. But yeah, it's down there. So all of our links are down in the chat. So you can find us if you have any questions. And thank you all for joining us. And we love you all.
Love you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, wait. I was going, okay, we're still live. I see you. Bye-bye. Okay. It's down now, I think.
It's always confusing, the live. I think we are still live.
We gotta check here first before it goes out.
It says live in the top right.
Yeah.
Top left corner.
Did you end it? We do this every
You gotta
time.
go the back. No, you gotta go in the
we're
back
so
end.
good. Yeah.
Oh,
Did
we
you go on
are,
the
aren't we?
back end.
End stream.
Oh,
There
Hey,
we go.
guys.
There it
End
is.
stream. Do you know, I want to tell you a funny story about that end stream thing. Once I had a live and I was
It's
very
still
new
live.
to, yeah, I know.